Are people still trying to speculate on new Toyotas and flip them on Bring a Trailer? Really? Derek Tam Scott is here to help us figure it out. Nerds! Bit Nerds is your daily YouTube car game show, where we predict the online auction results of the most interesting cars on Bring a Trailer, Cars and Bids, Haggerty Marketplace, and more. It's just like the Price is Right game show. Play along and see if you can beat the nerds.
All right, JP. So Buddha spotted the very first 2024 Toyota new Land Cruiser. This is a first edition car, and it's on Bring a Trailer. So clearly here we have Derek. From time to time, we've covered some interesting cars where they're basically like sort of the first ones to market, and people rush them to an auction listing to see if they can make some money to help, do a flip and put some money in their pocket for having landed one of the first ones for sale. So this is the new Land Cruiser. I don't know much about it, and honestly, I don't really care. But what I do want to tell you before I hand it over to you guys to talk about the car is that the MSRP on this car is $78,000. And we're wondering, Buddha especially was expecting that there was probably an addendum on this car. So if the MSRP on the window was $78,369, Buddha's thinking that if he got one of the first ones, and it's obviously a pretty new shade even for Toyota, that he might have paid $5,000 or $10,000 over for the privilege of landing one of the very first ones to drive off a lot somewhere in the United States. But without question, this is the first one to come to BAT. And clearly the guy who is selling it is speculating on the market for these and is trying to make a little money heading into summer. And so Buddha said maybe we should take a look at it and give it a quick review to see if anybody thinks that this guy's going to make some money, because Buddha, I think, is inclined to believe that he will. So JP, what do you know about this? This car only has 11 miles. It's on BAT up there in your neck of the woods in Seattle, Washington. Turbocharged 2.4 liter inline four, 8-speed automatic transmission, matte black wheels and a roof rack, pretty color. Jason did a show recently, and he talked about some of the new design language that's coming out of Toyota is really nice. And I actually like the lines and the proportions on this car. It does look a little bit like everything else, but there's not a lot of awkward pieces to this one to the eye. I like the way the car looks. I like it in this colorway. I even dig the all black wheels. I don't know if they're making these with a manual. I'd have to think if they did, that there might be some demand for the manual, that could be a cool feature to have for a vehicle that looks like it could basically go anywhere. When we get to the bidding, which we'll come back to the numbers, Derek, but I think, based on where the car is sitting and that it closes basically tomorrow, I think this guy is in line to put a couple bucks in his pocket. JP, what do you think when you look at the new Land Cruiser, and do you think this guy stands a chance to turn a profit, have some equity, even if he did pay an addendum?
Well, I mean, one thing that's going on in the regular car business right now is that, if you want a Ford truck or anything that CDRJ makes, that's Chrysler, Dodge, Ram, Jeep, or Hyundai or whatever, you can roll down to any dealership anywhere in America and pretty much get whatever you want, unlike a year or two ago. That is, except for a couple of brands, and that's Porsche, that is Toyota and Honda, and maybe one or two other special brands. But most car dealers and most car manufacturers have not only caught up with the increased demand, but now that demand has totally dropped on brand new cars, most manufacturers are having a real hard time moving cars. Toyota is one of the manufacturers that isn't. They have kept their production lean. They make more money on their cars when they sell them in other markets in the world. So the amount of cars that come to America is relatively few. When it comes to this particular car, I do like the design of the car. The style is cool. It's neat. It's definitely going back to that, boxier, more utilitarian, but yet modern kind of look that call it that Wrangler's always had, that the Defender has always had, the original Defender, not the new one, and that, G-Wagons and stuff like that. And the
Bronco.
Yeah, thank you, the Bronco. But at $78,000, this thing's brand new, right?
Right,
I mean,
that's a
with
lot of
a
dough.
4-cylinder. You know, just a couple of weeks ago, we had Andy's FJ Cruiser on here. This was a 2014. I'm just taking an opportunity to show off our photos again. I did represent this car for Andy. But, you know, here is probably the nicest FJ Cruiser that's been for sale in a long time. This is a 6-cylinder engine that will never break. This engine will go 400,000 miles or more. This has 3 pedals. This is the vehicle. I mean, this car only went for, what was it, 53? That saves you over, you know, that's like $20,000-$30,000 in your pocket, and it's way cooler. And what's funny is that as we're looking at the pictures of this, you know, stupid Land Cruiser, in the background, you see there is an FJ Cruiser in the background. Like, look at that. There's an FJ Cruiser back here. Look at that. You guys see it? It's up on the corner. It's like the guy owns an FJ Cruiser. He's like, I'm just keeping the FJ Cruiser, and I'm going to unload this stupid thing. What do you think, Derek? What do you think of these rigs?
I mean, the thing about these Toyotas generally is that, they left the 4Runner alone for so long because it was selling well and they don't depreciate. I mean, so I think there's this cult following. I mean, by the same token, you know, FJ selling for 53, you know, only, you know, on one hand, but on the other hand, you're like, oh, it's a 10-year-old Toyota that, you know, is selling for $53,000, which is just an absurd thing to say. So, you know, I think this has the power. It has the sort of butch looks to continue down the path of the 4Runner and everything that sort of makes Toyotas worth what they are. And so I wouldn't be surprised if we made a little bit of money, especially because it's the first one on the ground and someone sees it and they like the configuration and I don't have to wait around or deal with an ADM or negotiate anything. So I could see him making a little bit of money. You know, maybe I think it's 89.5.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
We'll
throw a number. He's ready to go. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's all right. Let's get to the numbers because I don't want to talk about this thing too much. But
sorry.
Okay.
Well, I just thought it was good. It gives you an advantage to go last.
Louvre 356 says that it's an anemic sounding Land Cruiser because of that motor. And JP, you had put up that one guy was talking about that he liked the design language because they kept the round headlights as a design cue. And I do think, you know, they are noticeable. Nice little accent there. So JP, here to get back to the numbers on this car. So the MSRP was $78,000. You know, basically 11% for tax and tags. So this guy's add $8,000 to that. So you're looking at, you know, $86,000 to take that car home. So is he going to make money from $86,000? Our car is sitting at $75,500 on just 12 bids, and our car closes tomorrow out of Seattle, Washington on Bring a Trailer. JP, I think he is going to make some money. And so from the 86, I'm going to give you $96,000 where I think it will sell. The name just carries too much weight. I think the color is pretty in that in this colorway. You know, some of these like sort of soft flat colors that they've been doing, you know, pastel and military greens and grays and blues of this are totally in vogue, and Toyota is leading the way in that. And the white roof and some of the design elements, I think it works. I think it goes. I think this guy's going to make some money, and you know, eventually supply will catch up with demand. But this guy's first to the key. I think he's going to win. So $96,000, JP, to you. Where are you at?
Derek, where were you at again? I'm sorry, you said 90?
He said 89.
89 and a half.
89. Okay. Well, then I'll do that. I'll hop in at 90. I think it's going to be basically someone's going to go, hey, I have a deposit on one. Here's one sitting there. I'll just buy this one and when mine comes around, or I'll just let it go to the next buyer. I just don't think there's I think that these are in demand. People want them, but I don't think people are going to pay over. I think it's going to be really tough for anyone to pay over these days. So let us know what you guys think. Let's hear. In the Nerd Herd, we got Anthony's at like 88 and Michael 89. He's with Derek. Yeah, everyone's kind of in that 80, 90. Chris Carbine's up there at 95. I think he says it fails to sell. So yeah, I don't know. It's it'll be interesting.
95 and a fail to sell is interesting. That's no, he says fall into place regardless of the. I don't know.
Oh yeah, man, I don't know. Sorry, I read that wrong. But
I did
anyways.
Too.
Yeah, let's move on. I got to tell you, though, there's no way in hell I would buy this over that FJ Cruiser. Let's take an opportunity to look how pretty that FJ Cruiser is one more time. Look at that. Look at that. Better than the photos from Toyota. Hey, guys, I got to tell you about our friends Godden Porsche of Las Vegas and Godden Classic. If you're looking for a new Porsche or a classic, you got to call our friend Steve at Godden, this guy.
1989 linen gray metallic G50 cab.
Is that going to be for sale?
It is going to be for sale. The car only has 65,000 miles on it.
Save yourself the hassle of screwing around with all the auctions like we always talk about and just talk to Steve. He'll find you the classic Porsche you're looking for. Godden Porsche of Las Vegas. Hey guys, you're probably looking at your watch and wondering if Bid Nerds will ever end. So you better talk to our friends at Our Smiths to make sure your Rolex, Tag Heuer, AP, or any fine timepiece is in tip-top shape. Our Smiths, fine Swiss repair.
Several days later.
All right, so first we have to start with a shout out to Buddha, aka Mike Myers, as the IRS knows him, but everybody else knows him as Buddha. He selected for us this 2024 Toyota Land Cruiser First Edition, and Buddha would like to start the show by apologizing that he had to go to a work dinner tonight that he couldn't get out of, so he's not in the chat. So if the guys are wondering about Buddha, he is sad to be not in the chats live with us this evening. But anyway, let's jump right into it. JP, this is obviously a brand new redo of the Toyota Land Cruiser. This launch version is called the First Edition, and according to Buddha and Bring a Trailer, this is the first one that somebody has brought to market and put on a platform. Obviously, with only 11 miles on the odometer, somebody's trying to flip this car for profit. I got the first one, but you can own the first one if you give me a premium price for the car. So whatever, regular pictures and an unremarkable car. Just it's the newest one brought to market, and we wanted to see if it would fare well. The interesting thing to note here, JP, is the MSRP on this car was essentially $78,000. So we're thinking with 11% for tax and tags, this guy basically has to sell this car for like $87,000 or $88,000 in order to make money. Now, we might not like that people do this, but people do it all the time, and successfully, I might add. And there's plenty of cars out there that are, plenty of models out there from different manufacturers that are difficult to get. With that in mind, I thought this guy would stand a chance to turn a profit. John, I said $96,000 is what it would take to bring this car home. You took the under at $90,000, which is an interesting number because that would imply that this guy could make money, but not a lot of money, and still win. And then Derek Tam Scott from the Curmudgeon Car Show and BTS with DTS podcast series. Derek Tam Scott came on and was our guest nerd last week, and he took the under right underneath you, JP, at $89,500. Now, I am not seeing the bids in the chat just yet, but it is interesting to see that two things happened. One, our car sold for $83,000 on 27 bids, meaning Derek was the closest. But according to our calculations, if this guy paid sticker price for the car and paid tax and license on it, then he lost money letting this car go. I'm very confused by this result. Why on earth would you buy a car, not drive it, and then turn around and sell it at what is arguably a loss? Like, this really, really interesting. So, JP, I'm having a hard time digesting this one. It doesn't make any sense. And I think we all agreed that's probably a really good chance that this guy paid over sticker for the car. So if he paid anything over, let's call it $5,000 over at 78, he paid $83,000, and tax and license would be another 10% on top of that. He might have lost 10% on this deal trying to flip this car. As I send it back to you, JP, to try and unwind what may have gone down here, it is worth noting that right before we went live on the show, I did hear from Buddha, and Buddha was basically dancing in his apartment, saying he was thrilled to see that the flipper didn't make money on this one. And in his words, he said, "I'm cheap, and I just want to believe that I can afford all the things." So great pick, Buddha. This was definitely one worth watching. JP, read the tea leaves for us. What do you think happened here? I cannot imagine a scenario unless, like he's in a state where he could have transferred a recent sale. Like, say he bought a car and paid registration and insurance for the year, and then he traded that in when he bought this and didn't have to spend as much on tax and license. Maybe he didn't lose that much money, or maybe he didn't lose any money at all. But like, that's an if, like if the tide and the moon and the sun all line up just correctly, I might get laid tonight. Like, I think he lost money, John. Is there any way he didn't?
I don't know if there's any way that he didn't lose money. That is a potential. Washington State is one of those places that if you trade in a car, this car was bought in Washington State. In fact, that dealership, Seattle. That's a dealership that I used to make commercials for many years ago. Cool. So shout out to our friends over at Toyota of Seattle. Yeah, look, I'm guessing that this Toyota is one of the few brands that still has a shortage when it comes to inventory. There are some models that you can just walk in and get, but this isn't one of them. These are in pretty high demand, and people are really liking these. I'm seeing the reviews are pretty good. But that said, yeah, I'm sure that the buyer probably lost money. The question is how much. Even if they did trade something in, there's still all the documentation fees and registration. One of the things that Washington State has is very, very high registration fees. You got to pay for all the monorails and rails and they just charge you for everything, toll bridges and stuff. But all that said, I suspect that he probably ordered this 6 months ago or something like that, when things were looking a little bit more rosy, and the people that were doing the flipping, that wasn't that long ago, and so there was still some optimism there. My guess is he got the car and was like, well, I don't know, but he got a loan on it or something, and he just doesn't want to carry on those payments, and he knows if he drives this for more than 30 seconds, it's going to depreciate it, so he better just unload it now and take the loss if there's going to be a loss. At least that's what I would do if you were trying to be smart with it. Otherwise, you pretty much just got to commit to owning this thing and owning it for a long time, which is not the worst car in the world to own for a long time, because it is a Toyota and it'll last forever. But like I said on the last episode, I would way rather have that used FJ Cruiser from 2014 that our friend Andy sold. Chef, what do you think of this truck? Is there anything special about this? What do you think happened? Was the guy speculating? Did he make money? What do you think's going on?
I'm not familiar with them. What was the mileage on this car?
It's brand new,
11
man.
miles.
Yeah, it's
11 miles.
11 miles. So no chance that he got it and just drove it and didn't like it. He literally never drove it.
No, he took it from the dealership to the under the freeway, shot it, and parked it in his garage and sold it, and arguably lost $5,000 on it.
Yeah, I think you're correct. He was speculating, and it didn't pan out.
He's actually under. What is the baseball field in Seattle? What is it called now? It used to be called the Clink. It's been called a bunch of different things. But he's underneath the baseball field where the Mariners play, not the freeway, incidentally. Just a little inside baseball from Seattle there for you guys. Could be an interesting place to shoot a car, actually. Just not exactly great photos. Anyways, I don't know. This just whatever. I think the point is the days of buying a car, getting your name on a list for a car, and then taking delivery of that car, and then realizing some kind of big, huge profit. I think that's pretty much over. Wouldn't you guys say that rule is done? Or is that still possible in some brands like maybe Porsches or something?
Yeah, I think you can't say that as a broad stroke. Maybe in general, and that covers a lot of the mundane, more or less widget type automobiles. But I think that on Ferraris and Porsches and other, they said this is a first edition and they're going to make just 5,000 of them. Well, that's hardly limited, So, but for those cars that they make 1,000 of or 1,500 of, Corvettes and some certain Mustangs, I'm sure those dealers are still putting addendums, and maybe they don't get everything they ask, but they're starting a negotiation at an artificially inflated price to get something over sticker before they let that car go. And that's going to continue, JP. I think that happens even in somewhat of a down economy, which is kind of where we're at now. But yeah, in general, John, I think you're right. And I said Buddha celebrating.
Well, let's. What do you guys think of the results of this brand spanking new 2024 Toyota Land Cruiser First Edition? Should the seller have held out and maybe tried to sell it somewhere else and gotten a premium for it? Or do you think they were smart and getting out from underneath it while they still can? What do you think happened here? Let us know what you think in the comments below. Hey guys, thanks for watching this clip of the Bid Nerds podcast. Play along with us live every Sunday and Wednesday night at 6:30 p.m. on YouTube. And see if your bids stack up to the rest of the nerd herd in the chat live. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you on the next episode.
Get those nerds!